Welcome to the Scoop with Dukes, the Colorado Scoop, that is. I'm your host, Phillip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. And please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. As you can see, I've got my Goonsville clothing hat on. Make sure you go to Goonsville and go check those guys out. Also, we've got on this dope hoodie right here. One for all for one. Make sure you go check those guys out as well. All right, so let's get down to business. Colorado day 1 in the spring. Oh, before I say anything else, listen, got something real cool we're about to do. We're going to do some lives where it's members only. So if you would like to become a member for the low price of $4.99, and it goes up if you want to support, this is all support based, go to the description and become a member. All right, for sure. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty. Colorado, day 1 of spring. And a lot of people are saying, they've seen the videos. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to Well Off Media, where you can, if you haven't, go look at those videos on Well Off Media. Go look at Reach the People. Go look at the Pregame Network, where you're able to see what the coaches. You can follow the program from day 0, from the coaches and the staff meetings all the way up till you're actually seeing them on the field. And those are the three leading providers of that type of footage. But when I did some digging and I'm talking to people in the building about what was their feeling about day 1, it was a tone setting day, a day where the tone was set. And I think the message that was sent to the team was that if you don't do what you're supposed to do off the field, you will not be on the field, regardless of position, regardless of side of the ball, regardless of what you've done in the past, regardless of potential, height, weight, speed, size, any of it. There were some times in practice today where some guys may have thought there was a rep for them to get, where their coattail had to be pulled, and it was like, nah, not you. No, we're not gonna do that. All right, you got some stuff you need to clean up. You're going to go with those guys, and it may have been a little bit of a surprise to some guys, but for people that have been there, it was needed. And I think with the tone that is being set, these guys want to play championship football. So in practice 1, I think the tone was set that if you don't do what you're supposed to do off the field, you won't be able to show your talents on the field. Championship football is what is expected of Colorado, and they made that known. Coach Prime specifically made it known in practice 1. Let's get into some of the players that flashed today. Um, Quinn Gibson is a guy, whether it was punt return, kick return, uh, catching the ball in indie drills, the way he attacked drills, the aggression that he had, and then one-on-ones. Quentin Gibson is somebody that they said is the real deal. Um, we all saw his highlight tape. We all saw how he basically powered his team to their success in Texas. But you wanted to see what he was going to do against college competition. Would he have the size? Would he have the speed? Is that 4.3 speed? Is it 4.5? Is it 4.7? Like, what is it really? Right? We know it's not 4.7, but still, what is that speed really? And in day 1, he has basically announced himself as a real player. Like, I think when it comes down to what you'll have in that room, hold on, we got a note here. I want to make sure I hit on. When it comes down to what you'll have in that room, you got to think about who can be the guy, who can be the Jimmy Horn, who can be the guy who you could throw the tunnel screen to. Who's the guy that you could get the ball in space? Who's the guy who could take the top off where you could throw the fake bubble to and he's too fast for a defender to catch up to? Quentin Gibson is going to do everything he can to be that guy. And I think what we've learned about is in this offense, they've learned what works and what doesn't. And you have to have a certain profile in order to make some of those schemes and the schematic part of the offense work. you don't if you don't have a guy who can make a man miss in one-on-ones, if you don't have a guy who can be shifty enough to win on a tunnel screen in a 2-3 yard radius, then why would you throw it? Quinn Gibson today, and I heard this from multiple people, has announced himself as a real player in Colorado, and I think you got to be excited about that, especially when you look at that highlight tape. Another guy in the wide receiver room that made his presence felt today, Quanell X Farrakhan Jr. If you saw some of the well-off footage, you can see him learning the nuances of receiving punts, uh, and I thought that it was really interesting to see that he and Gibson were both able to be utilized in the return game, and it reminds you of Horn and Wester. I would say like those two, there is almost like the new version of those two. People in the building are really excited about Farrakhan as well. When you talk about being able to run the whole route tree, making a contested catch, and having the maturity to say, you know what, I'm out here to listen, I'm out here to work. I think his maturity on the field has I wouldn't say surprised some people, but it's confirmed. It's been confirmed about his play level maturity on the field, and he's going to be a guy that's going to help Colorado for years to come. And in day one, he's made an impression that I was excited to hear about. You know, I think a lot of people were expecting to hear Quentin Gibson, but Farrakhan Jr. is another guy who made a really good impression on day one. We got to talk about the DBs. Two DBs that everybody's really familiar with that had really good day ones that people feel like you got two draft picks, I think. And if you watched Uncle Neely's video the other day, where he was, I think you saw Coach Prime going over. One of the staffers was talking to Coach Prime about potential draft picks. Two of those guys right now are in the secondary in Colorado, and they're the bookend corners. DJ McKinney came out and picked up where he left off last year. Um, Someone who Colorado feels very strongly about, that in man to man, it doesn't get a whole lot better than when you go look at like somebody who has the tools to play man, the length to play man, and the speed to play it. I heard he was shut down today. I heard Colton Hood was also locked down today. Someone who had another good day. So the first day, you got to be excited about what you saw from your corners, especially in a league where your corners are going to be expected to do a little bit of everything. We saw how well Colton Hood was able to break on the ball last year, get create turnovers. As a former high school quarterback, athlete, receiver, Colton Hood basically played any and everything. He never got the full credit that he should have for being an athlete. For him to come out day one and be able to come out on all cylinders, and I'm gonna get him on here sooner or later. But for him to be able to come out and click on all cylinders day one, him and McKinney, they basically set the tone for the secondary. Speaking of the secondary, another guy who flashed out of the transfer portal is Taufik Bayard. So the defense today, when they did have opportunities to go defense versus offense, the term that I heard used the most was aggressive. Bayard is someone who's gonna come down, he's gonna smack you. He's the type of guy that if he wasn't such a good safety, you would consider him just to be like a special teams guy, the guy who's gonna run down the field, the guy who's gonna put his face in the fan, quote unquote, the guy who's gonna lower that shoulder, lower the boom. And Bayard showed on day one. One, he's not afraid of anybody. Two, he runs well. And three, he has game day experience where no moment is gonna be too big for him. If I had to make my pick on the secondary, the first four out, three of them I would be the ones that I just named. The way that I heard these three guys being talked about on day one, I think you have the majority of the secondary. I think one question, another thing about Bayard they did say was IQ, being able to read, and when he triggers, he's gone. So from day one, he definitely made a huge impression. Um, the other safety spot today, so I was asked the other day who I thought would be at safety. I said Carter Stoudemire and um, Carter Stoudemire and Tawfiq Bayard. Well, today one of the first people who got a lot of reps today was Ben, and I love to call him Ben Finesse because I'm from Atlanta, and finessing is a thing here, and it's kind of a cool name, so I call him Ben Finesse. And I know it's probably Finnesseth, if I'm not Finnesseth, if I'm saying it the right way. And y'all, if y'all can in the comments, give me the correct pronunciation. But I'm gonna call him Finesseth. And I know that's not right. But being Finesseth is about to finesse his way into a role if he can continue to play. We've seen what he's done on special teams, but uh, basically he's making the most out of his opportunity. I don't know if he's going to be the free safety. I believe Bayard is going to be more of that shallow role, if anything. Uh, but to fill that Cam Sealman Craig role right now, you're going to see multiple people there. But I think right now, Ben is one who's going to get an opportunity at it, and you'll see a lot of him in the spring. He's earned it, and I think a lot of people will be rooting for him. So, barring any other transfer port, and this is the other thing too, they are going to go get more players in the transfer portal in the spring. Like that's out of 1,000%. But in this opportunity, I think Ben is taking advantage of it, and his name was one that was his name was one that came up today as far as talking about what you saw in the secondary. Another name in the secondary that flashed day one was R.J. Johnson. Had a really good winner. And the thing about Johnson was you always knew he had athletic gifts. But what you wanted to see was what would happen when the game slowed down for him and he was able to use those gifts. When he left Arkansas, before even then, coming out of Eagles Landing and before he went to Arkansas, everybody talked about his traits. Tall, long, corner, can flip his hips, will come down and hit. Not a whole lot difference. Maybe a little more finesse to his game than Colton Hood, but that same aggression, that same tenacity is what you saw out of R.J. Johnson. So with R.J. now in coverage, he's been super sticky. You can go look at some of those reps if you pay attention. You'll see R.J. making some contesting some balls in practice. And on day one, he was another name that was mentioned to me as someone who had a good day one. The defensive line, they really feel strongly about Jaheim Otis and Quinn Barnes. Big Quinn. Jaheim Otis and Quinn are some guys who they feel like are going to be able to help in a tremendous way, and it's going to transform this team because you're not going to be able to just gash them. And that's something that you saw as a you saw last year as kind of a recurring theme that if you want to beat Colorado, you got to figure out a way to gash them. But this year, I'm not sure if that's the way you want to attack Colorado. Uh, I think Barnes, who's always had the size, is starting to put it together, and then Jaheim Otis is someone who's been helping people because bringing that work ethic that he had to have at Bama and fitting into the culture where you're seeing people say, you know what, man, Jaheim, yeah, he's one of the biggest guys here, but he ain't messing around. So I think being a leader, him and Barnes having some mutual friends has helped them form a relationship and further develop themselves as teammates and basically battery mates on that defensive line. So those are two names that also pop. All right, everybody wants to know about how the quarterbacks performed, and what I got was that Salter, um, Staub is a leader. Staub showed himself as a leader once again. He's going to be somebody who's going to get some reps. Who's going to be that you're going to need a Staub this year for sure. But as far as 1 and 2, man, like I say this, what I heard was you got no separation, and of course you wouldn't get any separation day one, right? But Salter is as advertised. He does everything that you think he could do. Um, Basically, you knew what you were kind of getting in Salter. And he did not disappoint. Um, Crisp throws, was able to get the ball downfield, good decisions in RPO where you could kind of see the athleticism which made him a successful track athlete in high school. And you saw some of the long runs he broke at Liberty, and he showed a little bit of that today. But Julian Lewis continues to impress, and day one was no different. If there was any criticism of Julian, it would have been sense of urgency as far as getting through the drills and learning what to do and how to do it, and being afraid to fail. Uh, not afraid, but not wanting to take his time so that he can continue to be perfect. He's the type of guy that wants to be perfect in what he does, so he can show. He's never going to be the rah leader, but what you see from him on the field, where he's been in every stop that he's ever made, is what you see from him on the field is what makes you want to follow behind him, because you want to win. He plays a winning brand of football, and he does winning things, and he has winning characteristics about himself. But when it comes to throwing the ball, they 1000% said if you had to say, let's say out of 20 throws that you saw Julian make, there's only one of them he would have wanted to make back. Now I heard it was like on a deep corner, deep out, somewhere, something like that. Well, they said if he had 20 throws, there was only one you would want back. And for a true freshman, a 17-year-old who will not be 18 till December, we're talking about true prodigy status. So he didn't disappoint. Um, Everything that you were able to implement and install in the offseason in that little bit of time that you had with football school, Julian Lewis is able to put that on display today. So a great day for Juju. But let me not say, I would be remiss to say that Caden Salter didn't look just as good. I think it was just, you just saw him on a college level already. So it wasn't that surprising to see him come out and command the offense, make the right reads in RPO, get the ball downfield as he has a cannon for an arm. I think that this quarterback race is going to come down to who can be the best leader of men and who can respond from adversity the best. I think a trait that Shedeur Sanders gave to the Colorado Buffaloes is that no matter what the score was, you never truly felt out of the game. As long as you had Shedeur, you could see, you never felt out of the game because of his response to adversity, his toughness, not just on the field, but his mental toughness. I think that Salter and Lewis both will have to showcase that in order to take the lead for this job. But right now, I think it's too close to call. If I had to say anybody right now, I would probably say Salter because of the experience. But I think the potential of Julian Lewis is so tantalizing that they're gonna have to figure out a way to get him on the field if he continues at this pace. Now, the pace that he has to continue is he's got to make the crisp throws. He's got to make good decisions. He cannot continue to. He has to continue to make good decisions at RPO. One of the things that I heard about Julian was that he wasn't afraid to tuck it and go, and he moved. He was kind of surprising people, like, oh man, Ju got out of there, So I think his athleticism is something that's kind of been underscored as far as his size and athleticism, and I think that he proved day one that he's going to be a threat with the ball in his hands, whether he's throwing it or keeping it in RPO. And Salter has already proven it. I mean, I think this is probably going to be I can't think of a more intriguing quarterback battle in the country. And man, if you're a Colorado fan, you got to feel good, because I'm telling you, the way I heard it from people that know is that Salter is everything that you thought he was, and Julian Lewis is the future. That's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like. All right, guys, that's my update from day one of practice. I'll see if I can pull something out day two. If I can't, my apologies. Tomorrow I'm going to Georgia's Pro Day. So if you are a Georgia fan that happens to be watching this, I have a video up tomorrow from what I gathered from Georgia's first practice. And as always, make sure you check us out on the morning run. Me, Big Dog, Chico, and Uncle Neely, where we cover more than Colorado, Georgia, and Auburn. And you'll see more and more shows. You'll see the Scoop Show come. So, hey, please make sure you check that out. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. And if you would like your clothing brand to be on me as we continue to run these numbers up, man, hit me in the DM. Send me an email. The email is dukesthescoop@gmail.com. Let me know. Send me something. I'll throw it on. And the people that kind of rock with me earlier, those are the same people that I'll be rocking with later. All right, man. Thank y'all. I appreciate it for sure.